Good morning, Devils fans. The Athletic has once again given me a piece of content to ramble about, this time in regards to NHL front office confidence rankings for the year 2023, obviously. Essentially, they polled a bunch of Athletic subscribers. 11,000 people responded in regards to their team specifically, and then a little over 300 fans responded in regards to the NHL as a whole, voting on every team. Those were then broken up into people that just voted on their team, the fan vote, and then those that voted on every team as public opinion. Obviously, the Devils graded out quite well. Last year, we came in 11th, and this year we voted in at number 1 overall. No surprise, really, given how the team did last year. Obviously, there's a lot of recency bias in these type of fan votes and projections and outlooks, but I think that's right where we should be placed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through each of the different categories that we were ranked in. Basically, there was 6 and then a total aggregate score with roster building, cap management, draft and development, trading, free agency, and then vision. I'll just go piece by piece and just kind of give my thoughts on where either I agree or disagree between both public and fan base opinions. So again, we were number 1 overall this year with an A+, just to kind of let you know right where we were ahead of. The Carolina Hurricanes right behind us at number 2, and Tampa Bay Lightning coming in at number 3. I do think Carolina deserves to be there, Tampa a little bit less so, but I'm focusing on the Devils, obviously, for this video. So right at the top, we have roster building. Public gave us an A, second in the entire NHL, and the fan base gave us an A+, first in the NHL. By public opinion, Vegas was number 1. I mean, kind of hard to argue that the roster building of a cutthroat team that just won the Stanley Cup via very smart and lucrative type trades in managing their roster came in number 1 there. I can go either way. I mean, I can see the argument for Vegas. They just went about it in a completely different way than we did. Obviously, with the assets that we had when our rebuild first initiated and basically every step since, this is kind of how we had to go about our roster building. And given that, I agree that we were first. But given what Vegas had to start with and had to work with, I can see why you would say they are first. So I will definitely agree on both public and fan base opinions here. We obviously know we love how this roster is constructed. I'm sure public opinion also gave us a bit of a knock for what you would deem playoff roster building with heavier, bigger, more physical type play, which we did address a bit, obviously, with Timo. Toffoli's a bit bigger. We got guys like Palat, etc. But generally speaking, obviously, public opinion on us is that we're a small team. So I'm sure there's a bit of a knock there. But even given that, still came in second overall. The roster is constructed fantastically. We have arguably the best top 6, top 9, even top 12 in the entire NHL. We have a very solid defenseman group that we will see how it plays out this year, given we did lose 2 major pieces and are bringing in a bit of younger guys, although I think the ceiling on our defense core is higher than it was last year. The floor is definitely a bit lower, so we will see how that ends up playing out. And then obviously the goalie situation is the goalie situation. It is going to be just fine, if not great, for the regular season, and then we will see how that continues to play out in playoffs. Next up was cap management. The public and the fan base agree here as the overall ranking, but the public did give us an A+, and the fan base gave us an A, both putting us in second place in those areas. First, for both public and fan base, was Carolina. No argument there. Everyone knows Carolina has the reputation for being stingy with their money, letting Dougie walk and all of that. So if you really rip it down, cap management-wise, I mean, Carolina's going to be the best at it. They will not pay guys basically a penny more than they think they are worth to the team. And so, thus, they're going to be first here. But us in second makes a ton of sense. I know really the only contract you can really rip apart on this team is Palat being a pure value on ice impact overpay, but then that is completely made up in the likes of Jack Hughes' contract. You can say Bratt is on a bit of a discount. Nico obviously is a ton of value. Marino, Siegenthaler, you've got equal value, if not a bit of surplus in Timo and Dougie. And then obviously we have a ton of ELC contracts that we've been juggling along there, which obviously you don't sign guys to anything more than a slight variance in those ELCs, but it's still cap management to juggle when those expire and how those come in and out. And I think our front office has done a fantastic job around that. So no arguments there. I think second across the board makes a ton of sense, and A pluses and A's obviously going to agree there. Draft and development. Now this is the biggest difference between public and fan base opinion. We came in first in public vote with an A plus, while our fan base gave us an A minus, putting us at fifth in voting. So obviously from public opinion, when you have the likes of Jack Hughes first overall, which was a home run, Nico at first overall, people will say we could have taken McCarr there, obviously, so you'll get a slight ding there. But then steals and such of like Mercer, even Mukamadulin ended up turning it to Timo Meyer from draft. We have a ton of young guys that are coming up through with Nemec, Luke, Casey, Holtz. Mercer didn't really need to develop, came right in, but he is still young and developing. Basically, most of our roster is through drafting and developing, so it makes a ton of sense why the public would view us at first. Now, I'm sure the fan base obviously is going to nitpick a lot more, and unless you are really in the weeds, and even guys like Promin, like we've discussed on a previous episode, even when you're in the weeds of prospects, it is hard to rank those out, especially when you are future projecting. So our fan base is, I'm sure, still knocking the Mukamadulin pick, even though it has paid its dividends. The Stillman pick is probably the biggest knock on the Tom Fitzy drafting, and so I'm sure a big step down compared to the public opinion is from that pick specifically. But otherwise, I don't really know where you would take much grievance. Jack, home run. Luke, home run. Mercer, home run. A lot of depth late round picks have been home runs, like Gritzuk. We've seen, depending on how far back you want to go with Fitz versus Shiro and their drafting and all that. But yeah, fifth, I probably would say slightly low. I might have us at 4 or 3 overall in the entire league. I'd have to really dig into it to really hammer down exactly what I'd rate us. I wouldn't put us first purely on draft, because I don't think every single pick has been a home run. But to be honest, I don't think there's a single front office in the league that's really done that, outside of maybe a single one. But yeah, that's not really my area of expertise either, even though I'm in that a little bit. But yeah, drafting, developing, pretty good. We still got an A minus from the fan base. We'll take it. Next up, trading. Now, I'm a bit surprised that the public doesn't have us a bit higher here. Maybe it's because we didn't have the true home runs, I guess. But the Timo Meyer trade was phenomenal. The Toffoli trade that was just recent was fantastic. The Siegenthaler trade, the Marino trade. Maybe a slight knock you want to say for Halazaka, but I think both teams would still do that trade, and both fan bases would as well. We did get an A on both sides, public and fan base. Public gave us third, fan base gave us first. Obviously, as a fan, you know my opinion here, and seems like Athletics subscriber fans agree that we have crushed it on the trading front. Public has us in third. On a quick scroll, I did not see who the obvious first and second place were, so I can try and go over that real quick here while I'm rambling. But Vegas did come in at first, and then Florida Panthers at second. I guess Florida really is being heavy carried by that Kachuk trade. I would put us over that. You had an absolutely phenomenal deal done there, but that's one move. They had a couple other, low-key-ish ones, but I think we've had more overall total value gained. But hey, still third. Not gonna, nitpick too much on that there. Great job as always. We're first place here. There's not a lot to nitpick, as obviously public and fan base agree. We are doing a crushingly good job. Next up, free agency. Same grades, same rankings. Both gave A's. Both public and fan base gave us third. I'm okay with that. We really, if anything, you grade us out for not doing much in free agency. I would definitely say I'm actually surprised we're not a bit lower given the Palat deal. I know a lot of the fan base has a lot of ire for that. So actually, I'm surprised we still ended up third here in the fan base vote. I can see why public would still have us there. However, but if you really want to give us credit for not signing free agents, that's where I really think we've done a lot of our good dealings in free agency is not working in that area. You got the Dougie deal, which has been great. I think it's equal and fair value for Dougie. He has paid that back with this past season. and then the Palat deal. And then after that, it's just been low-key, very minor bottom-of-the-lineup signings. So on the whole, if you say that you don't burn your cap space or your roster in free agency is a good thing, which I share that opinion, then yeah, I can see why we're there. But I'll be honest, I actually think we're maybe a little high compared to some other teams that do similar work in that area. Next up, vision. So really just projecting out how we're building in our team. Weird enough, the public and fan base split by public giving us an A+ and fan base giving us an A-, but we are both in first place there anyway. So I'm surprised our fan base didn't do A+. I've been screaming that the vision here has been actually fantastic for years. It's just been making the smart, slow, long-term moves to build to where we're at now. So while I agree with the fan base that we're definitely first in the league in this, I disagree that it's an A-. I would even say S. That's not an option. But yeah, I mean, the vision here is fantastic. Long-term pieces, young core locked up for the long bit, smart short to medium term deals on not boom or bust guys, just true, tried and true, like defensive defensemen whose game should age very well in the Marino and Siegenthaler deals. We've got ELCs staggered fantastically. We got a lot of prospects coming up, guys that are going to work and fit into this system. I just don't see how it's not an A+. But again, it's hard to nitpick when both public and fan base are giving us first place in the league here. So yeah, it's great. In total, aggregating all those scores, the public gave us an A+, first in the league, and the fan base gave us an A, second in the league. So hard to disagree there. The only fan base that did come ahead of us in the overall rankings was Tampa. I think their two cups are hard carrying their fan base's opinion here quite a bit, actually. They have some weird contracts. I mean, I could nitpick a lot of contract and trades and free agency signings that Tampa has done. While the core is obviously fantastic, they won 2 cups. They still have done generally overall great job roster building and all that. I can nitpick a lot more about Tampa's dealings than New Jersey, but hey, second and first, what are you going to do there? Overall, I have seen some fan opinions around the fact that Fitz gets a lot of praise directly here, and that we are run by committee, as I have mentioned, not just on the coaching staff, but as the management group as a whole. It goes through both our front office with Tom, Marty, the entire management team. The analytics group gets a say, and then obviously ownership does sign off as well. And I think that's a great way to go about it. You do want the hockey man eyeball test roster construction type work, but that should be heavily influenced by the analytical community and looking at the underlying numbers for every player you are moving in and out, draft capital value, and all of that. And I think management, ownership are fully in on that vision. I personally am as well, and I think it is hard to argue with what we are building here. Seems to be the case for fans and public as well, as we are ranked the best team, management group, all of that. But one pushback I will give for, if you're you can't really knock Tommy Fitz for leaning on this aggregate approach, because a good leader listens. He could have gone the Ray Shiro route, which is why Ray was let go, in that Ray wanted to do it his way, didn't really need outside opinions. Obviously he would talk to people, but it was his say, his go. He didn't need anyone else to sign off on it, where Tom really brings in everybody, goes with a full group effort, and I think he should be commended for that, not knocked for it. Yeah, glowing reviews across the board, absolutely fantastic work. I could not be more excited. I say this over and over in these videos, but it's hard not to, given where the team just did, where it's at, where it's going to be, and all of that. Let me know where you guys think you agree or disagree in all of these ratings and rankings. Are you as optimistic as I am across the board in basically every facet of this team or not? And do you have any solid predictions on how we will continue to shake out in these rankings going forward? My prediction is we will be top 3 for the long term. It's very hard to just stay first in these, because fans are just going to want to get more nitpicky and more nitpicky the more you are highly ranked. So I'm sure we'll drop over the years, just depending on where we finish in the postseason. But if we keep doing better and better, it's going to be very hard to knock us out of this first place spot. So yeah, that's going to do it for today. It is officially hump day. So let's get over this brutal middle of the week spot. I hope everybody wakes up at 3 a.m. tomorrow to watch some One Piece. Shout out to One Piece. I'm going to try to not talk about that too much on this show, but everyone needs to go watch One Piece on Netflix tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, I will see you in the morning as always, and forever. Let's go Devils.